Son.
Got quiet. Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we have the Board of Education norms, which are available on the agenda if you'd like to read them. And next, we have the approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda of the October 18th, 2022 regular open session meeting.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the MSBA monthly report.
Welcome to the October edition of the Missouri School Boards Association's Board Report. We begin with a look at school safety. While physical safety and emergency planning often get a majority of the headlines, bullying continues to be the #1 issue reported to Missouri's anonymous school safety hotline, Courage to Report. As students are making steady gains in academic skills lost to the pandemic, parents and educators report that some students may have fallen behind in their social development. Safe and Sound Schools Executive Director Michelle Gay says that addressing all things that encompass school safety requires a comprehensive approach from schools and communities.
So we've created a comprehensive framework for school safety that really teaches making sure that you're attending to mental and behavioral health, health and wellness, physical safety and security, culture, climate and community engagement, leadership, law and policy, and operations and emergency management. That's a lot. We wouldn't expect everyone to know everything in all of those buckets, if you will, or those domains. But we hope that folks look at that and say, well, I do have a lot to offer in this area because I'm a school nurse, or I'm a school counselor, or I'm an administrator, or I'm a school board member. There's something in there that we all kind of specialize in and are passionate about. And so we bring that to the table. We bring that to the team.
Michelle Gay chose to take action after losing her daughter in the Sandy Hook school tragedy. Since that time, she has focused her energy on improving all aspects of safety and security in schools and communities across the country. She admits that the ever-continuing work of improving all things related to school safety is a difficult task.
The fact that it's hard work shouldn't deter us because good things are hard to do. Good work is hard to do. But there are ways to do it. And one of those ways is to hold on to our inspiration, our kids. We do this work because of our kids and because they're our future. So not just because we love them and we're dedicated and devoted to them, but because they are our future. So keeping that in mind, and also remembering that we're not in this alone. We will find our way forward. We will build and we will get better together is something I think that's critically important for our schools and communities to hold on to during this time when it's all really hard work right now.
Former Columbine High School principal Frank DeAngelis stressed that as school districts work on school safety plans, there is one key group that must be included.
I'll tell you, a lot of times what ends up happening is you have people make decision. And of course, we brought, police officers in, we brought firefighters in, we brought psychologists and social workers, including our staff and parents. But don't underestimate the power of the students.
To find out more about the school safety information and resources available to your school, contact MSBA's Center for Education Safety. Michelle Gay and Frank DeAngelis will both be presenting at the 2022 Midwest School Safety Summit to be held November 2nd and 3rd in Kansas City. The summit is presented in partnership with MSBA's Center for Education Safety and Safe and Sound Schools. Michelle and Frank will also be presenting together at the MSBA Annual Conference that is being held November 3rd through the 5th in Kansas City. The pair will be joined in the first general session by John McDonald as they share personal experiences and valuable insights regarding school safety. Former NASA astronaut Dr. Bernard A. Harris Jr. will speak during the second general session, and Olympian Jackie Joyner-Kersee will be featured at the third general session and banquet. The conference also includes more than 90 concurrent sessions, a one-day education expo, and much more. Registration information for both the Midwest School Safety Summit and MSBA Annual Conference is available on the MSBA website. And be sure your school board is represented at the MSBA Fall Delegate Assembly to be held on Friday, November 4th, in conjunction with the MSBA Annual Conference in Kansas City. The Delegate Assembly will be voting on position statements that will form the basis of MSBA's advocacy efforts during the coming year. Every MSBA member school board is entitled to at least one voting delegate at the Delegate Assembly. That's it for this month's edition of the MSBA Board Report. Thanks for allowing us to have some time at your board meeting, and thank you for all that you do to ensure all students succeed.
It's not quite the same without Brent.
No, it's not. It's not.
Thank you. All right, next we have the consent agenda.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have guidelines for public participation. Board members and administrators will listen to concerns and will respond when appropriate by mail or telephone at a later date. The public comment period will not exceed 15 minutes. No individual will be permitted to speak more than once during the period, and each speaker will be allotted no more than 5 minutes. Per policy BDDH-1, public participation at board meetings, the following guidelines and procedures are followed. In order to speak during public participation, a public comment form must be filled out and submitted to the board president prior to the beginning of the meeting. Public comment period will not exceed 15 minutes. No individual will be permitted to speak more than once, and each speaker will be allotted no more than 5 minutes. I do not have any public comment forms. Okay. Next, we have a report of the superintendent.
Thank you. On board docs, I think you have some appreciation there. The next item on my report is to talk about the enrollment count for the last Wednesday in September. I have the numbers up here for the past, this year and 2 prior years. So first day of school, the number looked like, and again, this is an estimate, that we were going to be up from the first day of school in 2021-22. When we did the official count and submitted it to DESE, our enrollment is actually down 15 this year when compared to the prior year. So slightly down. I have seen quite a few more homeschool enrollment paperwork coming through, so this slight drop to me wasn't a big surprise, signing all of those, but we were hoping that we would be up, so we'll take this count again and submit it to DESE. It will be the last Wednesday in January, so I will report in February and give you an update on enrollment then also. We also talk about preschool enrollment. So again, last Wednesday in September, our preschool enrollment first day of school estimate, we were down 2, but the official count here in September, you see that we're down 14 from the official count in 2021-22. But from what I hear, there's going to be quite a bit of testing. I'm trying to find this jury going on of pre-K students, so that number will rise. So that is the preschool information. Does anyone have any questions on enrollment?
Do we know how many students in our district there are? And then compare how many we are enrolled here?
We have a public school count, and that's why it says public count, because in the documentation, in board docs, it also has the non-public enrollment.
Yeah, but we don't know how many eligible kids there are in our district. Is that tracked or?
Well, parents who homeschool their children should notify the public school, and then we put them on the homeschool list that we submit to the state. Not all parents want to do that, but they should. That way the children are accounted for. But to answer your question, no,
It's
there's not
tracked.
any true way. We can look at birth records, but people move in and out between that time and kindergarten. So it's a little difficult.
Yep, okay.
And those figures include both pre-K and early childhood special ed?
Correct. Okay. The next item on my reports is for the principal reports. And this month, I believe Mrs. Geck is going to go first.
This one. Good evening.
Good evening.
I had to bring some cheat sheet notes because this month was jam-packed with events, and so my slides are full of pictures and not many words, so I brought my cheat sheet, so I hope you don't mind. This slide is a representation of our 5th grade career day that recently happened. Mrs. Grimminger, our guidance counselor, she worked with 4 local businesses and formed partnerships with them to give our students some career exploration opportunities. It was St. Genevieve County Memorial Hospital, Lawast, Save-A-Lot, and American Custard. So in all of the businesses, students were able to tour the facility. They were able to find out about the career paths and which pieces of that career involved college readiness, which ones the students did not have to go to college to do, and they were all provided with hands-on opportunities. In the top, you can see they were able to put on scrubs and masks. There in the middle, it's hard to see, but they have like an actual set of lungs open there for the students to look at. At Save-A-Lot, Wes took them back into the meat packing area, and they were able to meet with the butcher. And the Lost, they were able to put on the hard hats and kind of tour the facilities. In American Custard, they did get to go back into the meal prep area, but they also got to enjoy a fun meal there. So they loved that. This slide is sort of a combination of a lot of things. At the top, we have 2 pictures on the top left and the middle. We've reinstated our power groups, which were formerly known as lead groups. We have 4 big, all-encompassing groups for grades 3 to 5. That would be the Dancing Dragons, which you see there in the top left with Mrs. Wibbenmeyer and Mrs. Keeker. In the middle, Mrs. Kingery and Mrs. Grimminger. They have the Power Council, which was formerly the Lighthouse team. And then we also have an art group that Mrs. Schnitzler has started. And then Mrs. Fritsch and Miss Koenig will be doing robotics. They currently are doing the application process, and Mrs. Fritsch is awaiting some more supplies, so they will be starting soon. In the bottom left, we have Miss Brandy Schwartz. She is a contracted PT for our building, and she runs for St. Jude each year. So we did a fundraiser for her, and we're presenting her the check there, and that was kind of fun. On October 2nd, we had Custodians Day, and we celebrated Betty Barr, Angie Karen, and Brian Brakefield Sr. They're the custodians in our building, and they do an amazing job. And then the 2 pictures on the right, they're just for fun. Our preschool students, they have a pumpkin patch, and they recently took a field trip to their pumpkin patch, and they were able to pick pumpkins and take one with them. And the top was an impromptu picture that happened today. A group of our preschool kids were learning about spiders and how many legs a spider had, and they made the little hats, and they wanted to show me, and they wanted to take a picture, so it was too cute not to put in there. This slide is all about fire safety. So pre-K, K, and first grade all partake in fire safety. Pre-K, Alan Shilley and the Ozora Fire Department come with Sarah Carlson, and they do a presentation there because Sarah is a big part of the volunteer fire department in Ozora, or she used to be. I think she lives in St. Gen now. And so they came to us, and then they also came to our kindergarten classrooms, and they read a book, and they did some fire education, and then they got to go out and tour the trucks. But then our first graders, they actually get to go visit the firehouse, and you can see the bottom 2 pictures there on the right. They're actually like in the locker rooms and checking out the equipment, so that was fun for them. Okay. Last month, I thought I had a lot of positive office referrals. This month, I have a lot. It actually is a slide and a half, so this is where my cheat sheet comes in handy. All right. A lot of these students were new to positive office referrals, so I did not want to neglect putting their pictures on there or giving them a shout out, so I'm going to name them all if you'll entertain me for a moment. Top row, left to right, Axel Davis, Kanan Kwan, Easton Wheatberry, Brandt, Hunter Hollers, Colin Shue, Kendall Scoggin. Second row, Chloe Yutt, Lawson McGee, Roslyn Vineyard, Clayton Cook, who got 2 of them this month, Avery Wyrecht, Brady Ram, Bentley Parson. Next row, Cade Zangaro, Mason Hurst, Hunter Olinger, Aubrey Davis, Camden Kreitler, Wyatt Pickard, Cameron Stribling. Next slide. See if I can find my spot again. Mason Nagar, Elijah Dresky, Brooke Greither, Blake Ellett, Liam Rankin, Shaylin Wolf, Emmeline Clayton, River Reese, and Hayden Tucker. They were all very proud to be recognized, and I think the letter that Mr. Kingery sends home to the families is the icing on the cake. The families love receiving those letters, so that's fun. We also reinstated our Student of the Month luncheons. So each month, teachers get to select a student that may not be their top student. It might be a student that has made growth in a certain area or improved, or they just consistently have a good work ethic. So at the top, I'm with the K2 students, and at the bottom, Mr. Kingery and I are with 3-5. We just have a little lunch with them, and they got a book, and it was fun. Okay, and then finally, our last slide. Our feature teacher and super staff are Mrs. Audra Kingery and Miss Missy Follert. Both of these ladies are new to St. Genevieve Elementary, and they've made quite an impact so far. I just want to take a moment just to read some of the things that the nominees said about them. Audra has been such an amazing addition to our SGE family. She builds relationships with staff and her students. She's there to offer a helping hand whenever she can. She is available to assist with students who have emotional issues. She is so kind and patient. She always has a smile on her face and is a positive inspiration to all the students she works with. This year, the board graciously gave us a second counselor position, and it has been amazing, and it's had a very positive impact on our building. Audra is able to assist a lot of those K2 students for sort of de-escalation things that really aren't disciplinary, that allows Mr. Kingery and I to do our job a little bit more easily. And then when she's not available, Ms. Grimminger is able to step in, and vice versa. They have a really good system in place, and it seems to be working. So thank you for that. And then Miss Missy Follert, she's an early childhood paraprofessional. Missy is always friendly, greeting parents, students, and coworkers every morning. She is helpful and makes sure that all students have their needs met. She goes above and beyond to ensure that everyone is happy. Missy is flexible with the craziness of the EC schedules. She is very patient, she's kind, and she's always willing to help out, and she asks how she can do more. So those are our feature teacher and super staff, and
Good evening.
Good evening.
I have Amy Roland here. She graciously offered to explain some things that she has been working on this past month with some of our students. So,
all right, thanks for having me. A couple years ago, we started a counseling advisory council, and Martha's been serving on that. And so we want to rotate people in and out, so if anybody from the community, I would love to have another school board member jump on board. But it's really helped us have a vision and a motto and a mission. But some of these things, like the kindness leaders, really started for me way back when I worked secondary with the Mentor and Buddy program. I had always wanted to figure out how to do something similar at the elementary level, but just couldn't quite figure out like how exactly to pull it off. But I knew it was something that was missing and something that was beneficial to the other buildings. And so we had the pandemic, and that kind of put everything on hold, but I was always thinking. And then I seen a Leader in Me video that modeled students going into classrooms and asking kids how kind people had been to them for the last week and giving it a ranking. And I thought, there it is, because I wasn't quite sure what they would do all the time at the elementary level if they visited the same classroom every week, which was what I liked about mentors and buddies. So we tried it out last year, and then these kids have really collaborated with me to make it more of a permanent thing. So what we did was we spent the first 4 weeks just really getting to know and having like classroom meeting style. You can see that kind of there. And just getting to know the kids, and they're so moldable at this age. I was telling Dr. Taylor and Dr. McClard, I'm just seeing so much, and I'm so proud of it. And I think it's going to strengthen the buddies and the mentor program at the middle school and high school. I am kind of just making it up a little bit as I go. So now the kids have gotten to know the kids, they know all the names of the kids, and now they're asking that kindness question. So like on Monday, I said, okay, our overall kindness score was a 3.93. So kids, this week, let's make a goal of 4.2. And how can we do that? Well, let's be nice to somebody that isn't in our friend circle. So I kind of try to think of something to kind of guide them and get them motivated to increase their kindness. So what we'll do through the winter is I'm going to have the kids read books about kindness, those ones that I never get around to that I bought. I know Ms. Heverly has a big, you know, you buy them and then it's like, when am I going to read this? Well, why not have the kids do it? Something I realized a long time ago about this job as a school counselor was I want the heart of the school to just expand, and I can't do it by myself. I'm not for everybody. Not every kid is going to open up to me, and we need as many people as we can to become extensions of what I want for these kids. And so it's nice to just have a group of kids that are really an extension of my counseling program, which is how I've always viewed these programs. So they're into it. They're they're already like going above and beyond and trying to help these kids. And so I'm excited for all of us. It's not just a Bloomsdale Elementary thing. I think it's going to really develop.
And I will say, as I've walked past some of the first and second grade classrooms this past week, watching her kindness leaders in the classroom doing class meetings with the students was a beautiful thing for me to see, because as a teacher, when I was a teacher, we did them teacher-led, and it was neat to see her students, you know, leading that class meeting. So it was pretty neat to see. All right, I think you have the next slide too.
Okay. And then another way we don't do it alone, and one thing I think the whole district, like 2019, it was like we were getting out in the community with these kids at every building more and more and more. And we were kind of on that mission, like building that community where we're not just, and then the pandemic happened. And so Ms. Grimminger and I collaborate on our career days. So it was so nice to get back into the community. And the last time I did it, I know Jake Parker's here, from the 8th grade was his grade, 8th grade. And my daughter's in that grade. And one of the most beautiful things about it was, I remember we were driving, and we were driving past Bloomsdale excavating, and she started telling me what they do there and what kind of things, you know, and just started telling me. And then I was heading out to a benefit at Beige Farms, and I was like, I don't really know where this is. And she goes, oh, you just go here and you just go there. And it's just so important. I mean, there's a lot I could say about this, but I love the fact that the kids know the people that are in those buildings, and they know what goes on in those buildings. The one thing we do slightly different is we've got a lot of small businesses in Bloomsdale, so we kind of split the kids up a little bit more, and because the businesses, some of them are small, so we kind of do groups of 10, and we're a smaller size. So in the morning, they're rotating to all these small businesses, and then in the afternoon, they went to Wholesome and Beige Farms, and we split them up 2 ways that way. And I also love, they go to, Karen Nagger worked so closely with us and really gave us a great price for a lunch. So we had a nacho bar at the mill room. And some of the, you know, a lot of kids that they have never, we take for granted, they got to have a nice lunch together. They got to go, if you've ever been to the mill room, they got to and run out on the turf and do all those kinds of things. And it's their last year with us, so I love that they get this memory together, get to learn, and so I just really appreciate all the businesses that participated, and just always looking for more ways to get the kids involved and get the community involved, because we can't do it alone.
And I will share one story. She texted me throughout the day saying what a wonderful time they were having. And one of the students that was with her, his mama had just lost her job, and he was there asking other companies if they would hire his mom for a job. So,
but he was so happy. But I got to see that. Unfortunately, we don't always have time to really see how heavy that is on somebody's heart. So that was pretty neat.
well, thank you for sharing.
Okay.
Appreciate you. And these are a few more slides of Career Day. Sorry, Ms. Roland, can you talk about the one at the bottom with the hats?
Oh, that's Beige Farm.
Okay.
They really had us suit up for that. There's a lot of cheese tour. Yes, and I tried every cheese, and it was so good. I do not. For those that know me, I do not. Purposely don't put myself in the animal clinic. I can't.
She sent me there were 90 pictures or something for me to choose from to put on the slides today. I'm like, yeah, it was a little difficult. I would love to share them all. Let's see, positive office referrals. We had all of our 7 habits recognized this month, except for habit number 2. But the students that were recognized at the top: Branson Henson, Juliana Vogt, Reagan Donovan, Emmett Powell, Elliot Snyder, Leland Madison, and Jillian Hendricks. The bottom row: Scarlett Riley with Sophia LeCamp, Kylie Carlson, Azalea Basil, Gabriella Keith, Everett Krensley, and Rage Faulkner. Did I miss one there? Amelia Brown, the birthday hat on. It was also her birthday. It was a special day for her. Looking ahead, we have lots on the agenda coming up. We have our PTO Trunk or Treat and Haunted Gym this weekend. It's Friday night and Saturday evening, so if you have nothing better to do, we'd love for you to come do our haunted house with us. Red Ribbon Week is next week, and we have fun dress-up days. McTeacher Night is at McDonald's next Tuesday. And we have teachers that are going to help work at McDonald's, and then we receive some proceeds for that. Halloween parties coming up, Monday, October 31st, parent-teacher conferences. And then we have a few events that we've been planning. We are going to go back to a mid-semester, which first quarter awards assembly. We had taken that away and went into doing sign deliveries, but we found that it was not focusing on enough students and recognizing enough students, and it was, we just wanted to go back to the assembly to bring it more back into school. So we're going to do that, and then our Veterans Day Assembly is November 14th at 9:30. 9 o'clock the veterans are coming for donuts and coffee. 9:30 we will have an assembly for them. And then we are planning a family fun night December 8th. So, that's it.
Actually, tonight is McTeacher's Night for St. John Elementary.
So far, since the last time we saw you, we've had a pretty busy week or two at St. Genevieve Middle School. In the picture on the left, you can see that NJHS and Student Council had a food drive. We collected over 700 items for St. Vincent de Paul. And Ms. Joker's and Mrs. Mertzloff's advisories were the ones that won that. Lori Parker and Ashlyn Windsor. Lori got 5th and Ashlyn got 6th in cross country. And the boys got 4th and the girls got 3rd. In these pictures, you can see that these are our dragon groups that we have at SGMS. We have babysitting, basic first aid, board games, campus cleanup, card games, community pen pals, cooking, creates stop-motion videos, elementary readers, fantasy sports, global collaborations, guitars, drums, and more, gym games, leadership training, Legos, puzzles, recycling, self-care and SGMS and pictures, spirit club, 3 cheers, STEM, time management, stress management, video creation, teacher helpers, and walk and talk. Those pictures are just them going on. These are our Dragons on Fires. This is only a little bit of them. We could have had 16 more, but this is all we had room for.
I saw 16 of them today, so I said, Jake, I won't add them today. That's a lot. So.
And I will give them the recognition they deserve. So we have Anna Fisher, Connor Dorenkamp, James Roth, Caden Raymond, Robert Powell, Cooper Esparza, Kate Roland, which she got it 2 times, Zachary Stiegel, Jalen Pipkin, Audrey Baker, Anthony Abt, Owen Roth, Grace Kettinger, Wyatt Crocker, Jessica Harris, Hazel Schwint, Lucas Harrell, Troy Hurst, Rylan Inman, Finn McLeod, Xander Thompson, Hannah Nelson, Dalton Bowman, Christina Miles, Logan Keyser, Mason Willett, and Adriana Prestito.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Yep, go for it.
He lets me interrupt. I do want to tell you a real quick story, and I apologize, some of my fellow admin have already had to hear this. One of those kiddos on that list is on the autism spectrum, and I'm going to try to say it without crying. So I was having like an awful day with a student, and it was in front of all of my students. I couldn't get her to move to a safe spot. I couldn't get her to do what I needed, and it was on a transition time. So my teachers were all coming back. It was me, and I was on with this kid, and here's a whole line of kids waiting to go into their class, and he's at the front of the line. So he watches the whole show, and he is verbal to some degree, but we often don't know what's going on in his brain, and he'll give us pieces here or there. And so I'm sweaty, I've dealt with this whole situation, that things are finally kind of coming back down, and I'm getting this other student to the office, and I walk past, and he grabs a hold of me and throws his arms around me, and he pats me on the back as hard as he can, and he said, "Mrs. Huffman, I pat you on the back, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay." And I was like, there you are. Like, I know, we get to see those pieces, but just that moment where I'm like, there you are. And he's just becoming more and more comfortable and more verbal. And that was when, like, I brought him in, and he's like, he knew why he was in my office. He was ready to go. He was pumped. So it was just, these are all awesome stories, and it's cool to share their names. But I also wish that you guys could hear every single story behind each of those names. So, go for it.
Okay. This Spotlight Award for this month is Erin Stoll. Some things that people had to say about her was, thanks for always staying on top of our kiddos. Love your school and spirit every Friday, too. She has her students' backs at all times. She is always trying to advocate for the best and the needs of her kids. She is also on top of all facility shirt duties. She is always a constant positive face for every student. And this is Ms. Stoll. Is this Ms. Stoll's second time?
It is.
This is Ms. Stoll's second time this year so far getting one of these. Some things that we have ahead is today was our second club day. October 21st, we have grade cutoff, and there's a science club Halloween dance.
Kids are pumped. They're pumped.
October 24th is Red Ribbon Week and Career Week for the 8th graders. October 27th is Parent-Teacher Conferences. October 31st is Big Smile Dental Clinic. And November 2nd is our first Wings celebration.
And if you guys remember, Wings is our positive incentive program. So, that's kids are meeting behavior goals, they're meeting grade goals, and they're also meeting attendance goals. And this is year 2 of that, and it's thus far proving to be a very effective tool that our kids look forward to. And they do, when I'm handing out discipline, I can see them like checking the Wings list to see if that takes them off or not. They're like, and I'm like, here's the line, let's work, under this line. So thus far, it's been a good motivator. Is that our last one?
Yeah, that's cool.
All right. I will also tell you, this is Jake Parker. He did a great job. We were trying to get you a little more student involvement from our middle schoolers, and not going to lie, are you 13? Are you 14 already? Oh, you just had a birthday last week.
Yeah.
For a 14-year-old, I'm pretty pumped. He's like, I got this.
Hard act.
I got this. So, yep. So, thanks, sir.
Thanks, Jake.
Good job.
All right, good evening, everyone. I've got a couple of special guests with me tonight, too. So I'm super pumped to have Anna and Lindsay here with me. Both of them are officers in student council in NHS. Lindsay is our class president. She's our SUCO president. They are both in Mr. Ross Planning and Development class, and I came to them with this idea of coming and presenting to the board and kind of doing our principals report, and I gave them complete full reins with the presentation. I shared a few pictures that I had with them, and they took off and ran with it, and now after looking at their presentation, they make me look really, really bad. So I think that they just rope themselves into more presentations. So I'm going to turn it over to them.
Every third Tuesday.
Oh, we have access. I was like, how do they know when to switch it over? Okay, so this first slide that we have, I want to talk about a couple of these pictures. So in the top left where you see the painting on the wall, we're not in the commons like we usually do where you'd be able to see them, but we have Hannah Nagger, and I'll get a little bit more in depth later, but Hannah Nagger has been working on some student artwork in there. And in the very bottom, where you see the top of Jameson Kemper, and you can see Hawk's face there too. They're all actually clinking glasses, and that is from the French 4 classroom. They were trying out the mint tea, which is a traditional, they made it the traditional way in the proper tea kettle, and they had a mint tea session with some French cookies and things as well to learn about the French culture. Okay, so this first slide is to congratulate and kind of take notice to some of the kids who got positive office referrals, but also got the Rotary and the Elks. Colin Fritsch, who is an amazing, amazing kid. He's like super, super smart. Didn't he get recognized for? It was for his score last month. It was on the presentation as well. Oh, you already talked about that. Or is it on this one? Anyway, and then Nolan Walls, who is like, they take like top 12%, and he got the Elks Award. And then some of those pictures were just some of the many that we could not show of all the pictures of all of the positive office referrals that we got. So we have Allie Apt, Zoe Ahrens, Taylor Armbruster, Carly Bosler, Abby Bowman, Olivia Bays, Anna Bennett, Eli Bennett twice, Kyle Bly, Lily Cazell, Evan Coyne, Lindsay Crump, Aiden Eisenbeis, Annalise Figge, Tessa Hager, Austin Hendricks, Allison Loudenbach, Marlena Lucan, Allison McCrory, Charles McGuire, Isaiah Messer, Logan Moore, Adam Oder, August Sheroff, Cameron Sikorsky, Joe Simmons, Carly Smith, Wyatt Springcamper, Isaiah Stiegel, Chloe Turlin, Madison Travis, Jacob Warren, Maya Watts, Chloe Wolf, and Lauren Wright. All of those students got the positive office referral for their great character, personality, their education, and their participation in the school. A lot of those kids are kids that have not ever gotten a positive office referral, like elementary, middle school, like nothing. And I've seen them in the halls, and they kind of like chatter about it to themselves, and they're like, "Can you believe I got a positive office referral?" And like you could tell it like crazy brightens their day. Okay, so this month was crazy. Like I had to like get a whole notebook of things that we did and our school has done this month alone. So to start off, our FFA Grassland team, Bree App, Seth Fisher, Sophia Fritsch, Wyatt Palmer, and then we had a student coach, John Merklin, who got second in state this week. And then this Thursday, they're going to competition again to compete for that. And then Lainey Emmett's state qualifier for the girls golf team, she has killed it this year. She is just an amazing golf player and just person all around. And then we have Holland. She has been working for this. She was so excited. I was talking to her about the conference, and she was very nervous going into it, but at the MAAA conference for cross country, she ended up placing first, which is the first time since 2016 that we've had a girl place first, and the team themselves placed third overall. And it was so great to see our girls up on that leaderboard too. And we had Dakota Meadows, she placed 11th, I believe. And so it was just overall great to see them, and they were all talking about it. And that's the best thing about the school is everyone is proud to be part of it because of these people that just work so hard. And that brings us to the golf team. Not only did we have state qualifiers, but we had several records broken this year. They broke the record for the 9th hole, which it was 189, and now it's 182. And for the 18th hole, it was 393, and it's now 356. So they have been working on that, and I'm so excited to see what else they have this year, what else comes this year.
Mm-hmm.
Our other news is the band for finals placed and at the band competition this weekend, and they're going to continue it this Saturday. They have just improved significantly over my high school. They, like this last game, no, I'm talking about our homecoming game. Our homecoming game, they really brought it. It was like super impactful. They were with our spirit crowd. They were super involved, and you could tell that they were just having a really great time all together. And then Carden Poker-Miller, who is only a freshman this year, made it to the prestigious 2022 All Districts Choir. This kid he's a super bright kid in the freshman class. He's on the football team, and I think that's the only sport he plays. I don't think he's involved in a lot of clubs, but choir is something that this kid really, really shines in. You can tell he's passionate about it. He sang at the volleyball conference tournament tonight, and I know that he's been singing at a lot of all of the sports events that he can. He's just an amazing kid.
And then many of you were watching the game tonight, but also probably heard it walking in. They're very excited. And so our girls won the season conference championship and #1 seed, and so they're working tonight against the other teams, and they have made it to the second round. So fingers crossed, and you can definitely hear them cheering in there. We'll hear it as soon as we open that door up, I bet. And then another thing, our school this year is trying to up beautification and inclusivity and making sure that everybody knows that this place is a home. And so we have been doing handprints, which I know has been talked about previously, putting handprints and murals on the wall. We have JC and Olivia, 2 freshmen working on their own mural for their class, and they have been working very hard on that. They have all kinds of different details and things, so when you guys walk back to the volleyball tournament tonight, you can see that.
I want to play off of the volleyball conference championship tonight. So it's known, I don't know if we have it on the slides because it was really last minute, but our food pantries like really, really, really need help. And Schweiss and Roth kind of came to us yesterday in our second hour class and like throughout the day and kind of said, hey, they're in a lot of need right now. Is there something that we can do? And so tonight we had a canned food drive, super, super, super last minute. We posted it over social media, and we had some really amazing student council kids kind of step up last minute to take shifts tonight. And when I peeked there last, we got a lot of cans. And I was just like, that's a really amazing thing that our kids were able to pull off like last minute.
So now we have even more stuff that's been going on. So these are groups of students. So we had first the Job Olympics, where several students in Ms. Cleghorn's class participated, and we actually had a few placed last week, but they were able to show their experience in a field. They worked on interview processes, and they were participating with other people, getting that human interaction and just dealing with the workforce. And so that gave a great opportunity for those students to be able to learn about the workforce and also get the full experience of the workforce. Same goes for the Build My Future Day. Mr. Thompson, Mr. Rapp, and Mr. Mueller took a few students to the Build Your Future Day, and they learned about different industries and how they work, and about different technology uses, different career paths that they can take for those technology and industries. And we just want to say a big thank you to those 3 teachers as well for taking our students on that trip. Another thing that's been going on, and this is the beautification. So as I mentioned in the Commons, we have student artwork, and we plan on adding more student artwork to fill some of those spaces. And this is all what they decide to come up with. It's their freedom to put on the wall and paint the wall. And so what Hannah Nagger is working on is she actually has, it's a woman with headphones on, and the earbuds will connect to a second one underneath the tabletop, and it is full of beautiful colors. She's got some pinks, greens, blues, yellows, all kinds of colors, and it just adds a pop to that room whenever you first enter. And then another idea that we're working on is the senior tea. We are wanting to update that, and so we've got a couple of designs and things ready, and that's something that Principals Advisory Group is working on. And in that, you can see those 2 designs up there. We want to have something for our foreign exchange students, and also just anybody in the school that has a second language, speaks a second language. We made sure to include Farsi for Miss Halle Fowler and her family as well. And then in the bottom left, you can see a sign that says Dragons Are Inclusive. And on either side of those posters, or however we decide to actually hang those up, we are going to have collages of our foreign exchange students and of Miss Cleghorn's kids and of kids that, you know, we feel like we want to give that recognition to and show inclusivity. And while we're on the topic of inclusivity, a very last minute thing that we decided to tonight, we just posted it, is tomorrow is Unity Day, International Unity Day. And many people are wearing orange, so we just posted for people to wear orange tomorrow. So if you guys would like to wear orange, it's for kindness, inclusivity, and unity. And that's something that we really want to show for our school this year. And the last thing for beautification we have tonight is Mrs. Reed Memorial. This has been a process I know that a lot of students have been working on for a while and wanting to get, so we have been in contact with a couple of artists in town. People that have been affected by Miss Reed live in town and are happy to do artwork like this for us. And so the picture that is up there of the woman is a inspiration of what we want to do. We want to have an abstract art piece of Mrs. Reed and a quote below, and her quote is, "Be kind, period, always, period." And those periods are very specific and powerful, and it's what she stood for. And so our plan is to be able to include her personality and her goals of what she wanted in this school as well. Teacher again. A little bit different.
Okay, you want to go with craft first?
Or do you want me to go with Tombs first?
You can go ahead with Tombs.
Okay, I have my little paper open. So we all know who Tombs is. He was nominated, and and this specific student had said, "I nominated this staff member for many reasons. However, I narrowed it down to some of my favorites. The main reason I chose him was because of all of the overall kindness and joy that he radiates. He never fails to brighten up a room and make anyone smile on what seems to be the most difficult days. However, when a student needs to talk with him, his door is always open. He listens to all they have to say and gives great advice on how to resolve any solutions that they may be facing. The whole time, he manages to make every single student feel safe, understood, and supported. The care he feels for the school and all of its students does not go unnoticed." And I can agree.
And we usually only have one member, but we actually had two this year, or this month. And it was Mr. Kraft as well. He was our teacher of the month. And this is what another student had to say about him. They said, "I think that he is very good at what he does. He genuinely wants all of his students to learn what he is teaching. He always asks us if we understand what he is explaining, and if we don't, he will explain it in a different way, so that we do understand. I like that he uses fun examples during his lessons. I also enjoy the fact that he is very passionate about what he teaches. We can all tell that he enjoys what he's teaching, which makes the class so much more fun. I feel like I am able to pay more attention to his class than others because of the good energy he puts off while teaching. And these are two teachers. So we had our counselor and then a history teacher, Mr. Kraft. And what our plan to do, and you've seen these in the past, I believe, is the backgrounds that we've decided to do for the computers. Everybody gets the same background each month. And it includes a quote from the previous month's Teacher of the Month. So last month, Miss Papin submitted one from Shakespeare. And it was, "It is not in the stars to hold our destiny, but in ourselves." And I can't wait to see what Mr. Toombs and Mr. Kraft come up with for the next quote. But I'm sure it'll be great.
And before we move on, isn't that like student-led too, like the backgrounds?
Yeah. So those are actually backgrounds that Principal's Advisory makes, and I'm in charge of making those backgrounds.
Aw.
You set it up there, didn't you?
Yeah. I did set
Good
it.
assist.
Okay, more things coming up. Okay, so, you think I should read down the side first? I think I'm gonna do that. So, SAD is hosting Red Ribbon Week, 10/24, 10/28. Web City is gonna visit to shadow our inclusive programs on the 24th. So, Roth has his like little second hour school development seminar, and I think Ms. Sherry is coming in tomorrow to come talk to us and have some of our students come in and kind of like go with Web City that day to kind of like help more on what, and like show all of the inclusive stuff that we're doing to show inclusivity. What did you say?
Show our inclusivity program. They know that we just got the unified banner, and they wanted to see what exactly we do to include some of those students and see our other programs. So we'll take them through a tour of the school, show all of our programs, along with other things that we do in the school, and we'll hopefully be able to bounce ideas back and forth with each other and bring those ideas that they have, maybe that are different, to St. John as well.
I'm most excited to show them our common grounds. I think that that's going to be like super like mind-blowing to them that our community was able to do something like so crazy like that. Our SGHS play production is going to be on the 26th with our new teacher, Mrs. Papin. Parent-teacher conferences and college career fair. Do you want to play off of that?
Yeah, so we're going to have our parent-teacher conferences along with the college career fair in the afternoon. We have done it during the school day in the past, but we want to give the opportunity for students and parents and everybody to attend. And so we are also doing it, we're going to be doing it after school that day. And students can walk around and talk to the different colleges and different career fields. And then along with that, we are going to have food trucks out front. And that bottom flyer, that's the green one, and has the QR code on it, that is the flyer for the food trucks. However, we did just find out that Daddy-O's will not be making it that day.
We tried.
Our student council group is going to be attending district conference on the 28th. And I think that's hosted at DeSoto, right?
Poplar Bluff.
Poplar Bluff. Just kidding. I don't know where I grabbed DeSoto. That's a really good group for some of our student council members who haven't gone to an MASC event like Lindsay and I have. They've always been super, super, super impactful, and this is like a great opportunity for some kids to really come out of their shells and open up and really become amazing people and bring that back to our school and get some new ideas into what we can do. NHS is hosting a Halloween event on the 30th. That's the Halloween bash. That's going to be the top one above the food trucks and the college career fair one. It's like the white Halloween bash. That is for our community, and it's going to be for our elementary-based really kids, and it's going to be a lot of Halloween events and a maze. We're going to do a maze, and we're going to do a lot of cute like little yard games and stuff. A lot of stuff that is like super inclusive, and it's not like skill based. A lot of kids are going to be able to like do all of the things and not have to like worry about anything. They can just have fun and go. What else were we having? I feel like I'm missing a key point with that.
So it's a mostly free event. We're going to have those games like ring toss, face paint, things like that. They can attend for free. Trunk or treat as well. We'll have trunks and hosting contests for those decorated trunks. Costume contests that are done by age group. We'll also have a family contest. And then the only things that we would have for people to pay for would be drinks and the mazes. And we just want to be able to get as many people out there for a fun Halloween event. I'm definitely one for Halloween. I love Halloween, so anytime I can get something in there, I'm going to do it.
The Veterans Day Parade and Luncheon and Assembly is going to be on the 10th of November.
That is
everybody knows.
That is the middle school and the high school together, and we are going to do the parade. We're working in the SPDS class on getting more banners and trying to show our appreciation even more, upping it from last year, and we'll have that luncheon for them to be able to discuss, and we'll have them all brought to the school where we will have our guest speaker as well. And an example of one of the banners that we'll be having is that it says, "To our veterans, thank you for our service." That is a banner that we will be hanging up in the gym. And another plan for banners is we'll have an empty template the day of red, white, and blue that we will be putting each and every single one of their names on to be hung in the gym as well. And that is it.
This is always the best part of the night, but Jake, Lindsay, Anna, you made it even better, so I appreciate it. And you're
Thank you.
eons ahead of where I was in middle school and high school, probably.
And then the last item on my report, safety reports, we have none for you this month. That's good.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have unfinished business. We have one item there, instructional program presentation, elementary library.
Yes, this is Jessica Uding, our elementary librarian, put together a video presentation for you.
Working in our elementary libraries are Mrs. Carlson, Mrs. Diamond, and myself, Mrs. Uding. Students in grades preschool through 5th grade visit our libraries 4 times every month. Class times are 50 minutes in length, and our library curriculum encompasses 15 units and covers topics such as story elements, typing, maker spaces, and internet safety. This shows the library circulation statistics for St. Genevieve Elementary. Last year, 37,345 books were checked out at this school among faculty, staff, and students. The pie graph shows the circulations by grade level. And on the right are the top 10 library books that were circulated last year. 100% of them are graphic novels. On the screen are the library circulation statistics for Bloomsdale from last school year. At that school, 16,428 books were checked out. The circulations by grade level are in the pie chart. And on the right, the top 10 books circulated for the 21-22 school year are listed. 92% of those are graphic novels. Flashlight shopping in the library is something we have traditionally done in October. We put battery-operated candles on the shelves, turn off most of the lights, and students get a flashlight or a lantern while they shop for books. At the beginning of the school year, when students are taught how to use the card catalog, they go on library scavenger hunts. So in groups, they use the catalog to find a book, and together they go to the shelves and locate it. A large part of what we do in the library involves makerspaces and STEM. When Mrs. Carlson works with the students twice a month, they have the opportunity to create open-ended STEM projects. So students have a bin of materials and they get to create different projects using those materials. In addition to that, students in grades 3 through 5 also have STEM challenges that they complete once a quarter. Some sample projects they will be doing this year are The Floor is Lava, Create the Mayflower, Santa's Parachute, and an airplane challenge. Outside of library class, you can see the coding choice board pictured here. Students are able to choose from different coding platforms and code on their own time. In the past several years, students have had the opportunity to experience some virtual author visits. These are Zooms in which the author presents information and takes questions from our students. Some authors we've had the opportunity to meet are Kimberly Newton-Fusco, Jennifer Nielsen, and Ross Burak. With every author visit, each student also gets their own copy of that author's book. Book fairs. This is an event our students look forward to the most. Each elementary holds a book fair once a year. We get help from families and board members who volunteer their time to come in, so students have an opportunity to fill out a wish list and to shop. My personal mission statement for all students who enter the library is to show them that they are important, they are cared for, they are special, and there is a book for everybody. Thank you for watching.
I asked Lexi last week why she liked shopping so much, and she said, "Dad, I blame the book fair."
It's young.
Next on the agenda, we have new business, and under that, board resolution for membership in the Success Ready Student Network System Design Zone.
I'm going to turn it over to Dr. McClure.
Yes, I think it's evident, I would say all of you probably agree, but just tonight that students are more than a test score. We see that thinking, applying knowledge, being personable, speaking, connecting to the community, these are all pieces that we want for our students in their education. And the Success Ready Students Network is a group that's pushing for an alternate test that is more encompassing of some of those skills, but also is not just a one data point entry in their success. They're also looking at the way we do accreditation and looking at ways to accreditate schools outside of the box. In order to achieve some of that, they may have to push for a waiver from the state or even maybe the federal government to allow us to try out some new testing methods so it's not just one test at the end of the year to assess their knowledge for that year. We were one of 25 school districts selected to participate in the Systems Design Zone for Missouri. And what they're looking at is some of the discussion that they're having as far as like assessment goes is using interim assessment. So having multiple points in data, possibly using data points that are related to what we're already currently using. So we use NWEA. That's something that they're wanting to pull the information from and say, look, this aligns with MAP. Can we look at that? Which already aligns with some of the conversations we've had as a district. They also want to look at making sure that it's not just, here's the standard, we're testing this question, but to be able to kind of see if they're doing well in this area, let's move it up and have it based on the student and be a little bit more individualized. And they also have talked about looking at some of our, what our students need to be empowered to own their own learning. And so seat time is not equal to learning, but learning's the variable. It may take some of us less time, it may take some of us longer time, but once we learn that, we're able to show that we've mastered that, and maybe we've mastered it in a way where we can create a portfolio, we can create a video. It may not be traditional paper pencil tests. So this group is looking at alternate methods for accreditation and for assessment, and this is something that we have signed up to participate in with the group and kind of explore. By signing up, we've agreed to attend some professional development. Dr. Mercer and Andrea Fritsch are two of our representatives along with me. We went to Jeff City and learned a little bit, and DESE has kind of came in and also partnered with them as well, but we've got several retired superintendents, several people that have worked with DESE, very knowledgeable people on assessment that are in some cases nationally known. Through that professional development, we are to come back to our district and then share it with our leaders and disseminate, and then kind of look at our own assessment practices, which some of them already align. For instance, formative assessment, instead of waiting until the end of the semester to give a test, we're checking to see how are students doing and then adjusting. Just like one of the videos for one of our teachers said, if you don't get it the first time, well then he's going to explain it another way. And that's what good teaching is. And then collaborating with others and figuring out, well, what's the best way to teach? So a lot of the practices already align with what we're doing. It's just figuring out how do we continue to move down the path to individualize and give students what they need. And part of the requirement is for the board to basically agree that, yes, we want to participate this, and if there is a point to where they need to seek a waiver, that they would still be part of this group. They have been having ongoing conversations with DESE. They don't think that they're going to need to ask for a waiver in order to explore this avenue. So, are there any questions?
When you refer to they, who's? I read the resolution. You mentioned 25 school districts. It says public and charter. Who's leading this effort?
So. It would be...
Because it's not DESE, correct?
Correct. It's not technically DESE. It would be, I'm going to have to pull up their names. There's several retired superintendents. You may have to help me out on those names.
Dr. Lightfoot.
Yeah.
He is the retired superintendent from Pattonville. When he left Missouri, he went to Kansas, and I think he did 5 years there, and then retired from that system. The other one is Dr.
Pam Hedgepath.
Hedgepath,
Yep.
um,
From Republic. Yep. And
Public
she-
School District.
And they've been, there are a couple others that are retired superintendents, and they've, what's the superintendent's cohort? Yeah. So they've worked together in that a decade ago, talking about assessment, and we really need to have a better platform to really understand where our students are at while we're still meeting federal requirements for testing.
So is the goal of the group to explore alternative solutions to standardized testing? Is that the end goal of this group?
That's the end goal. So, and to make it more of a locally controlled way of doing things, and make it where it's not just at the end of the year, we're taking a test and hopefully you do well. It's more of an informative test to know, well, this is where the student's at. And then if they show mastery, the end goal, I think, is if they show mastery, say, midway through, then you're able to keep moving them up instead of having to come back at the end of the year and take a test over it. You've already shown mastery. Let's keep moving through the standards and learning them either deeper or above that level.
Okay. And, sorry I have so many questions.
All right.
How were we picked as one of the 25?
You have to apply through the Success Ready Student Network. And there were 2 different cohorts. There was the Systems Design Zone and then the Innovation Zone. Systems Design Zone is one that uses 8 of these competency-based platforms. And so you go through and you basically show how you've aligned to some of these. Some of them are formative assessments, individualizing learning, connecting to career, job, college readiness, utilizing the community and continuing to learn outside of the walls. And once you fill out that application, they review the application, and then they decide who should participate. If you don't have those in place, then there was another cohort where it was more of a learning-based cohort. But this cohort is special in the sense that they are able to bring recommendations to DESE to be considered for changing the state test.
Okay. And in terms of, you mentioned the waivers in DESE. Can you give me an example of why they would seek a waiver? Like what would be a need for us to approve? I'll just leave it at that. Like,
Yeah.
Can you explain what a waiver is and what would be useful?
Yes, so a waiver would be used to find an alternate path for meeting the state or federal requirements for testing. The testing requirements are very rigid and strict of, well, you've got to test at this grade and you've got to use these approved vendors and you've got to do, X, Y, Z. So this would allow for basically using something like NWEA and use, if they've shown mastery, say, in winter, then it will just test the skills that they didn't show mastery on and show us where we're at there.
Okay.
So it's just being able to test in a different way, a way that we think would better suit our needs as a district.
So one of the challenges associated with the current way that we test students in the state of Missouri is it's in March or April, and we don't receive that data back until the following year, at best, early the following year. Our teachers are constantly knocking at principals' doors, wanting that data because they want to know where their kids were last year. Can I get my kids' data for last year? Because I want to know where they are so I know how. We were lucky enough to get in on the MOAP partnership where we partnered with NWEA. About half of the students in the state of Missouri are in school districts that partnered with NWEA or another vendor and started these interim through-year assessments and the NWEA test is adaptive. So you may be in 7th grade taking an NWEA math test. If you've got that mastered, it's going to take you to the 8th grade standards. It's going to take you up a level. And so teachers are getting that data in our district as a benchmark when they're coming back to school in the fall. In the winter, they take an interim assessment, and then, depending on what school you're in, you either take it before the MAP test as an indicator of where you might score, or after the MAP test, depending on how it falls at the end of the year. Every educator will agree that interim assessments and getting that real-time data back so you can adjust instruction to meet the needs of your students, every educator would agree that's the best way to assess students, along with other formative assessments. The federal and state requirements of those standardized tests are so rigid it doesn't allow us to branch out. Being a partner with MOAB has allowed us to get our leg in the door with this organization and start down this process to have those conversations with DESE on, does the NWEA data correlate to MAP test data? Is this score on NWEA an advanced score on the MAP test? And if you can statistically show that and support that, then why can't we give interim assessments so that no matter where you go in the state of Missouri, you can transfer out of our school and go to another school that doesn't use NWEA, you're still going to know where they are. So that's kind of...
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong or where I'm wrong. I recently got my son's NWEA scores, and it tells you like what they would score on the map, whether it's proficient or whatever. I don't know the other ratings, but so in theory, if this would go through, he scores as proficient in ELA or math or science, so says he could forego going a standardized test such as the MAP program.
Yes, this would be like a replacement. And we're not saying it will end up being NWEA. We're not really sure what it's going to end up being, but something similar
But
to
this is
that.
exploring multiple different
Correct.
software solutions to,
Yes.
okay.
And it's modeled after, there's several other states, like one that sticks out in my mind right now, like North Carolina is already using something like that. So they've done research into what have other states done and how can we model off of some of their success.
Okay, and then last question, I'll let somebody else talk. What does it mean for our teachers and their ability to effectively manage their classrooms? Do they have the time to do this, or is there going to be one more thing placed upon them?
Yes, so right now, it's just what we're currently doing anyways. So it's more of learning how do we manage that, and that's some of the input they've asked for. Well, in order to make this successful across the state, what do districts need? What would your district need? And some of that is even being able to go to model districts and see. For instance, in the next couple of weeks, I think during the MSBA conference, they're hosting a tour of Liberty High School. They're going to Epic, which if you've ever gone to Epic Elementary, it's worth a visit. But seeing, well, how do they manage some of these systems in order to differentiate for their children? But it's not anything that's beyond what we're doing. It may be deepening some of our practices, but I think it's not another thing for our teachers. If anything, it would be taking away that end of the year test and using, that's kind of the way I see it, is it's going to be aligning with our current practices, and then we can actually focus on practices that we think work and get better at those.
So by joining this cohort, or we're going to call it 25 schools, we're going to push towards a goal of figuring out ways to enhance and or abandon, or whatever the right word is, standardized testing.
Correct. And look at also alternate accreditation methods. I think that's the following year for the state.
Okay.
Here's what I found.
Oh.
Maybe we should listen.
Yeah.
So we joined, correct me if I'm wrong here, MOAB, like
Missouri Assessment.
4 or 5 years ago. We got kind of in the front door there.
We joined with Dr. Lindsay this year because he was the first Southeast area representative, and then I took his position when he left. So this work aligns so well with the work that we do.
That was my question, yeah.
Yes, we took bids and, you know, proposals from a lot of vendors, and MOAB, we looked through them and we came down to 2. So there are some districts in the state trying, is it Missouri Connections? And then, the rest are doing NWEA. So we've been doing this work for a long time.
And one of the reasons we wanted to get in on the front end is to collect 3 and 4 years of data for NWEA so that they could do a correlation study to see how it correlated with the MAP test. Well, the pandemic hit. So I think we were able to get in 2 testing sessions, and then we had to press pause on it before we could get back into it and then start collecting that data.
Can I throw something?
Absolutely.
We're on the ground in the building. Dr. Taylor pitched this to our teachers. We were the very last ones and to get in on it. The elementaries and the middle school were already NWEA testing, and we were very cautious at the high school not to add one more assessment piece because we were afraid with ACT tests and EOC tests and everything else that we did, we were going to, just wear our kids out. And the test, and getting in and listening to our teachers, they absolutely love the formative piece, to be able to see where a kid's at, and the individualized growth piece of it is what's huge for us. And that's the piece I think that they're speaking to and talking about, is we can take a look at a student and we get at the end of the year and we see that they score basic, below basic, proficient. But what does that mean? Where were they at when they started the school year, and then what growth does that look like? If we've got a student that was below basic, but we see that incremental growth from that student, that's a win. But right now, all we see is a number, and that's not a win. And so if we can see that students are making progress and students are having growth, that's huge for us. And at the high school, it's so much different than what you see at the other levels, because you can go back and you can take a look at where they were at in 5th grade and compare that to where they're at in 8th grade. But at the high school level, it's so course specific that without having that formative piece, it's so difficult, because a student can be really, really good in biology and not be a super strong student in English. But the comparison there is so vastly different because it's so course specific. They can be really good at biology and not very good at chemistry. And so the science mind, the mathematical mind, the algebra, geometry are 2 different worlds. And so for us to be able to see a student where they were at to start the year and what growth they see incrementally throughout the school year, I think that that's a huge, huge win for us. And that's the piece that I think that they're speaking to in regards to NWEA, and that's, our teachers absolutely love it. And like I said, we were very hesitant up front to get involved because we felt like it was one more assessment, one more test for our teachers. But our teachers that get in that actually have it, and the ones that don't have it, so right now there isn't an NWEA test for government, and they're the ones that are clamoring for it the most. Like, they want to have that assessment because they see the growth, they see the measures, they see the conversations that are happening with the other content areas, and they don't have that piece. They just get the one EOC score at the end of the year, and then, if we're lucky, we get those test results back by the time we return for PD at the beginning of the year, that they can start analyzing and taking a look at those standards. But those kids aren't in American government, they move on to American history. So, I mean, you don't have an opportunity to go back and take corrective action with those kids.
I'm going to throw in something really fast. When you talk about, so we have kids, our middle schoolers, they don't love taking all these additional tests. I'm not going to sugarcoat that and say they do. But there is a real, genuine feeling that they can actually get feedback. So the first year that we had 8th graders take it in 7th grade and 8th grade, one of my 8th grade office aides said, so how do I know how I did in math? And I said, well, you might know by next October. And he said, are you kidding me? And I said, no, that's when we get your scores back. And he said, well, NWEA, I get my score immediately, so I know, and I know if I've grown, and I know if I've done better. So there's some authenticity too. It also shows validation of why we're assessing. Because that math score come October is difficult for teachers to utilize with their next students, but really doesn't mean a whole lot to those kiddos at that point either. So for them to be able to see their own growth and really start to see and put those pieces together has been beneficial.
So I just want to make sure I'm clear, got some clarity. I know I've talked to some students, and instead of taking, because you're talking about, instead of waiting all year and taking the math test and then getting the results next year, some of our students are sitting down, and maybe more than I know, they're taking, we keep talking about the NWEA test. They answer a lot of math questions. The more they get right, the harder the questions get. Instead of a paper test where everybody's answering the same questions, that child can then advance, or the teacher can help them advance, versus working with another student who may not have gotten so many right.
And like the EOC tests are set up the same way, the same as the paper test that you just described. The kids have a set number of questions. It's not scaffolding and challenging that kid and getting more difficult. It's a set number of questions. They're answering those questions, and they either get them right or they don't get them right.
And I want to say the opposite is true. You have a student at a grade level who is struggling, has an IEP. They start out at the grade level. If they're struggling and can't get through that content, it will take them down. So it's adapting and trying to find where their level of learning is at.
And then the teacher gets that data much more immediately.
In 24 hours.
Oh, wow.
The most difficult adjustment, I think, and I've heard this over and over, to the NWEA test. And if you have a student who is used to getting A's, they're getting 50% of the questions wrong, because the test is going to get harder and harder until they can't answer them anymore. So I think that was an adjustment for some of our top students, was they're used to getting all the questions right, and now they're, wait a second, I'm getting 50% of the questions wrong that I'm being asked, so that was an adjustment.
But they don't see a 50%.
No.
Right.
Okay.
But they get frustrated.
They do.
Mhm.
Yes.
Can I share one little thing? As a counselor, I took third graders last year that were taking, you can see how long it took them on the test. So I took 5 kids that were below basic and worked on test-taking skills and talked to, so I pulled them, they were taking the test too fast. And so not only were they, there was maybe a guess there that they were rushing through it. So we really worked through that in small group, and then they all grew. So that it's limitless, the things you can look at within WEA.
So the waiver in the end could help districts, consortiums, whatever it is, say, we just want to try and replace the MAP test with this test that all of you are like nodding your head and saying yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it may not end up, like I said, being a waiver, like they had the person in charge of testing at DESE there listening, and they've had ongoing conversations for, what, 8 years, 10 years? Yeah. Yes.
So do the different cohorts, like the one we're in now, and if we go forward, somehow in some organized way sharing all this data with DESE, so DESE at the end of it all looks at it and says, yeah, we think this would be a legit way to
Yes.
assess students.
Yes, so Dr. Fulton, Dr. Hedgepath, we mentioned, Dr. Charles Pierce.
0.021, I motion that the Board of Education adjourn to a closed meeting with a closed record and a closed vote after a short break for the purpose of discussing and voting upon the following items of business: hiring, firing, disciplining, or promoting of particular employees, and scholastic probation, expulsion, or graduation of identifiable individuals.
Second.
Do we do a roll call vote? Yeah. All right. Here, Mr. Bosler, second. Okay, roll call vote. Jamie Ballou,
Yes.
Eric Bosler, oh, you seconded.
Yes.
Dave Bova,
Yes.
Jerry, yes. Josh Gettinger,
Yes.
James Kirschner, Martha Reesinger. All right, 7-0 vote, unanimous, and the motion passes.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you all for attending.